are going to talk about foundation piecing today. So a lot of people call foundation piecing paper piecing because a lot of times we do it on paper. I don't prefer to do it on paper, so I'm going to show you the way I like to do it. But how cool is this quilt? So there's pictures, here's another version where she's done it in just regular print fabric. So that's cute too. Anytime I bring in a new designer, I try to buy one of their patterns to make sure they can write a good pattern. This is a good pattern. The reason I like this pattern the most, when you're doing foundation piecing, there's a couple of things that make a pattern better than others. Yeah, there's a million patterns you can download for free off the internet, but if you don't know how to do this first, those are the things that are going to make you nuts. Because this is what the patterns look like. They're upside down and backward, and you've worked them from the wrong side. One of the things, a couple of the things that make this pattern good is I like that you get a color diagram of where everything's going to lay. So if I'm just making block 1, so I've made all these blocks already. If I'm just making block 1, I'm going to make as many copies of block 1 as I want, but I like that it gives me 2 tones here. The other thing I really love about this pattern is she gives you cheat sheets of exactly what size to cut all your pieces before you start. The biggest thing you're going to have to get over when you're doing foundation piecing is you're going to throw fabric away. If throwing away tiny scraps makes you itchy, foundation piecing might not be your thing. But the accuracy that you can get from throwing away those scrappy bits is kind of worth it, I think. But these are more of the blocks that I've already started. So I just need to put the borders on these and put them together because I haven't put the borders on this yet. Okay, so this one doesn't have anything in it yet, but these are just kind of fun and they're not hard. This is the simplest paper piecing you're probably going to find, which is the reason that I chose it for this demo. So I cleaned up my mess because another thing about foundation piecing is you're gonna make a mess. It's just the way that it is. I've started to call my mess Bruno because we don't talk about that. So there's a bigger mess around the corner.
We definitely ain't talking about that.
We ain't talking about that. I'm not calling Rebecca a mess, I swear. Okay, so I've got my scraps separated into color. So I've got some yellow scraps, some blue scraps, some pink scraps, because those are the colors of my Post-it notes. Right. This one, actually, we're going to put those away. So these are the ones that I've put the borders around. These just need to get sewn together to each other. I'm going to put those down there. Now, you can print on paper. We're going to talk about some of the reasons I hate this. A couple of things happen when you print on paper. One, it tears easy. You have to tear the paper out when you're done. Which is tedious, and you have little pieces of paper left in there. And the other thing that happens when you stitch on paper and then you tear it out is now your stitches have a layer of paper thickness that now the stitches are loose. So unless you want to match your thread to every single seam that you sew, you're going to see your thread. But you won't see that in the technique that I'm about to show you. So the product that I like to use is called Print and Piece. Now I have shown you Print and Piece fuse before in a video for things like English paper piecing. You do not want the fuse for this technique because you're going to iron on this, and so you don't want it to stick. This stuff is paper and fiber mixed together, so it will tear. And see how it's fibrous? Okay, next we're going to talk about how to line this all up. Now here's where people get confused. We are going to sew from this side. The side that you can read the words is the side we're going to sew from. Our fabric is going to be attached to this side. Now this is where it gets annoying because you're like, well, where is it? And you're trying to hold it up and you're trying to look in the light and it's a pain. If you have a light box, this is the light box that I love for so many reasons. One, it's a nice bright light. And check this out. You can adjust the brightness to be as bright as you want. Like that hurts my eyes, is too bright. But if I keep holding the power button, it will adjust to a scale of brightness that I like. Okay? If I hit it once, it turns off. I love this light box. I have it in 2 different sizes. So what I'm going to do is the first piece that I want to put on, I've already cut my pieces to size. The first piece that I want to put on is this A1 piece. okay? So I'm going to take my piece of fabric, I'm going to put it under my piece of paper, and I just want to make sure that my paper, or that my piece of fabric, whatever design I'm trying to cover, covers it. I want to cover it at least 1/4 inch all the way outside of the whole design. Then I'm going to take my handy dandy glue stick. Love this glue stick. You can do one of two things. You can pick this up, put it back down on the light box so that you can see the pattern that you're trying to cover. Put a good helping of glue on there. Pick it back up. Put this on top of your piece of fabric, making sure that you're covering all your sides. Okay, that's step number 1. Now I do have a cutting mat that you can put right on top of this, so you can cut right on top of the light box. I don't have it out right now, so I'm just going to slide this over. Some people will use cardstock or a piece of or the piece of cardstock that comes with the ruler. I like template plastic because I can see through it. So A1 and A2 are the first thing that gets sewn. So I'm going to take my piece of template plastic. I'm going to line it up on that line between A1 and A2. I'm going to take the piece of foundation, just the foundation, not the fabric, and fold it over on the template plastic. This is an add 1/4 ruler. This will make your life so much easier if you're doing foundation piecing. Couple of tips. Do not cut this without this. What this does is it gives you a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It gives you a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we're going to lay our add 1/4 ruler on the edge of our pattern. Cut off the extra fabric and throw it away. Having this angle means you line this piece and this piece up perfectly every time. So I'm going to take my A2 piece, which the pattern's already told me what size to cut it, and I'm going to line it up right on that angle. And the reason I want that angle is so that when I sew this, I'm going to have exactly a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Since you're using a foundation, since you're using an actual foundation that's going to stay in, there's no reason to backstitch this at all because it's going to stay in there. Now we're just going to press this up, press it flat, press it open, and go on to the next number. So now we've done A1 and A2. A3 is next. I'm going to lay my clear template on the next line. Use my add 1/4 ruler. Trim that away. And I'm going to put my next piece on. Does that make everybody a little less scared of foundation piecing? Like, are you a little bit more inclined to try it? If you start with a pattern that's nice and simple like this, once you wrap your brain around the upside down and backward, all those really involved, detailed foundation blocks that go together in all kinds of ways and have tiny little pieces and all of the crazy stuff, once you demystify this part of it, the rest of that is much easier. Got some really fun stuff coming up for, you know, demos and stuff over the next couple of weeks. So I hope to see you then. Have a nice night.